Hello, I'm John Hare. My family and I moved here 20 years ago. We moved here from Wexford, even though I'm a Clareman. And we're here in the beautiful village of, our town maybe, of Lisdoonvarna. This was set up many years ago as a spa town. And it has probably a short history if you compare it with other towns like Innistimon or Kilfenora in the vicinity. Why did it start as a spa town? Because they found mineral waters here. Who found the waters? Well, the landlords, of course. The two landlords that were here were the Cray family, which were sent packing from Madeira at the time of Cromwell, and the others were, through marriage, the Stackpools of Ennis. So those two guys, after the famine, decided, well, money wasn't coming in. They were in a bad state of repair themselves, so they decided, well, if we could get the spas up and going, then we might be okay. So they found the minerals in the water. They brought all sorts of mineralogists here from Trinity College, and they tested the water. So the big one they found was sulphur. And right here in this spot, the sulphur well was found. Now there are other wells, like the iron wells, and then we had sulphur wells, or other sulphur wells as well in other parts of the town. So it was divided equally between the two landlords, and bit by bit they encouraged what they called redundant capital, to encourage people to come in. And business people of Limerick, you know, the Spates and the Bannintines and the Hartigans and the O'Briens, they came here and they built the Queen's Hotel, which is now the Hydro. And from that, lots of people started to come. And they spent their time promoting. A promotion of Lisdoonvarna was a huge thing, and especially in the early years when other places were being promoted, like Lucan in Dublin, but they said they wanted the people of Dublin to get out of the bad air of the cities, the Belfast Telegraph, the Wexford people. They were coming here from all over. And from England, a lot of our people came across. And priests and Christian brothers, they rushed here. And from all the Australian newspapers, when we checked them out, they were always writing about Lisdoonvarna, how wonderful it was. So, bit by bit. But the famine did stop a little bit of the development, but after the famine then, it took off. It really took off in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, 1900s, and people were coming from far and wide. And we did some research into the photographic sections in the National Library and the National Archives, and we found a lot of history, even though I had read in the archives in the Diocese of Galway one time that Lisdoonvarna is a spa, full stop. The great thing about Lisdoonvarna is it has no history, but it has a history, as we found out, and the history is what's here now. Unfortunately, I suppose in the last number of years things haven't been as good as they used to be, but the matchmaking, which was really put in line by Jim White when he came here in the late 70s, he got matchmaking going, which would have been here kind of casually before that by the half gentry who visited the place, but he got it going and got a matchmaker into town, and that's continued to the present day. Now, because of the pandemic and one thing and another the last 2 years, we are kind of a bit redundant, but people are still coming. The older people are still coming. I met 4 people from Wexford up in the town the other day, a man from Piltown, Kilkenny, and they come here year after year to meet one another. And of course, dancing has been curtailed a bit as well. Yeah, there was a book published in about 1775 where it listed all the spas in Ireland, and Lisdoonvarna was mentioned. And Mr. Perry was here at the spa one time, and a visitor from England came. He was a botanist, and he said he visited Lisdoonvarna. He had been to Kilfenora, he was going to Doolin, so he came. And he said he was very lucky that he met Mr. Perry, because unfortunately, he said, all he could get were potatoes and sour milk, but for Mr. Perry treated him to something better. Yeah, yeah. So at the beginning, I suppose, things were rudimentary here, and there were often comments by people that, you know, that people in Lisdoonvarna had wanted to do something, because originally here this was kind of waste farmland. They were actually digging turf up where the square is at the moment, and then the landlords who had access to people in high places, they brought the mineralogists down here to check the water First of all, they brought it off to Trinity College, but sure, a lot of the water lost its, you know, stop. Oh, probably it lose. Yeah. Anyway, can you go back on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It lost
don't
its
need to go into that much
yeah,
detail.
yeah,
We can just
okay.
say what it was discovered.
Discovered and analysed.
And
Yeah.
then, and
Yeah.
it was found to be very therapeutic.
Therapeutic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then people
Yeah.
came because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
So when they found out that there was minerals and the water was pretty good for you, then they promoted it worldwide, and people came from all over the place. The water, the sulphur water especially, was regarded to be the best of the waters. And again, a different writer might have said, "Oh, for young ladies coming and looking after your complexions, forget about all your creams and everything else. Try Lisdoonvarna, and everything will be okay." So in the 1840s, just before the famine, Mr. Pierce Cray built a primary school and he mentioned in the application to the Commissioners of Education that it was near the crossroads where the spa was in the town. And that was a big thing for the town, for the emerging town. And after that, the famine and the bits and pieces, but in the 1860s, 1870s, we had Fenianism, we had all sorts of things going on, and little bits and pieces, people weren't happy. But in the 1870s, that's really when it took off, when you had the building boom here in Lisdoonvarna, and we had 5 hotels built in the 1870s, and then guest houses, and the town, it was a bit like a jigsaw, it started to come together. Well, why would people come? Well, the promotional work of the landlords, putting in all the newspapers and that. And I mean, there were 100 spas in Ireland at one time. Some of them were just mere wells. But here, we were a late developer, but the trains brought us here. They came across from Galway in steamboats, and the West Clare Railway, set up in the 1880s then, brought people to Ennistimon. They had envisaged coming here, but the money wasn't there to do it at the time, and that brought an awful lot of people here. They were sure, rather than going to doctors and one thing and another, they were sure that the mineral waters here, the iron and the sulphur and the magnesia and the sulphur, was doing them good. And even though it did some people good, some people left it a bit too late, and unfortunately they didn't survive. In this spot we're here, this was the epicenter of the spas in Lisdoonvarna. And why this site developed was that the sulphur water was regarded as the best water to drink and to bathe in. So the first landlord who was here was William Stackpole, and he built a little house here in the 1860s. And he put gates in it to stop the local people coming in. He wanted to charge them. But in Fenian times, they blew up the gate and they blew up the roof off the house. But after that, things calmed down and they started to build again. And they built the first bathhouse, and a doctor was brought in. They built a doctor's house, Dr. Stackpole Westrop, a relation of the landlord. And he has a beautiful house just up there, but it's no longer used. And then bit by bit, the old bathhouses were too small, and here on the site again in the 1940s they built the new baths, which are now redundant as well. And in the 1970s they put a dance hall here on the site. So this went on until, I'd say, until the 1990s, when things started to decline. People started going on foreign holidays and all that kind of thing, and they didn't believe in the power of the sulphur water. They believed that swimming in the water was probably better for you than drinking it. We do hope here in this town that the town will continue as a spa town, and that people will continue to come here, and the matchmaking will continue, and it will get bigger and better as the years progress.